Hi guys, if you've been keeping up with my videos on YouTube, you may have clocked that I've been doing a bit of work on a Wargames or w.o.p.r simulator. Originally I started writing it on a Sinclair QL just because I was kind of familiar with that version of Super Basic and like the fact that you could write procedures quite conveniently with it. Anyway, it occurred to me that it might make more sense to actually get it running on the same hardware that they were using in the film. So, with a bit of help from a friend of mine, Sean, we built this Imsai 8080 replica, which has got an ESP32 microprocessor installed in it. And the kit I got from Dave at the High Nibble. So if you want to go and check him out, I'll put the link below the video. Anyway, here you go. This is the Imsai 8080 replica. It's currently running CPM 2.2. So you can see that as with the original, you've got all the LEDs and the switches, and you can toggle various programs that way if you choose to. But generally, I just boot it straight into CPM, which only actually requires me to power it on here and then engage run there, and within no time at all it'll be up. So at the moment, we just have a look at the screen. So I'm currently connected to the Imsai 8080 replica via RS232. If I just get around the back so you can see a little better. So there we go. There's my RS232, which is actually a null modem cable, but it's a USB on the other side for convenience. And you can see there's the little ESP32 microprocessor. And you can see there's another serial port there. But the benefit of the ESP32 is that it's got built-in Wi-Fi. So this is connected to my home Wi-Fi network. So I can actually connect into its built-in web server and configure it that way, but I prefer to go in via the RS232. But either way works absolutely fine. So at the moment, that's effectively just the bootloader screen for the ESP32 microprocessor. But if I come back to the front panel and I click up to run, you can see there's a bit of activity as it's loading up the OS, and at the moment it defaults incidentally to the built-in TTY, and you can see there you go, the terminal's up. But if I want to disconnect the TTY available through the web server, all I do is that to disconnect it, and that should automatically hand control over to my terminal session. There you go. You can see we've got the prompt up. So it's worth showing you a few more features of this actually. I mean, Dave covers this very well in the series of videos that he's got on his YouTube channel. So if you want more information, probably best to go and look there. But I'll just give you a little bit of an intro so you can see what we're talking about. So over here we've got a number of different icons. So we've got our TTY that we've already had a look at. We've got our CRT, and if I swap the ROMs, then I can use the CRT instead. Our LPT printer output. So if I dump something out to the printer, I can effectively capture it and do something with it afterwards. We've got 4 floppy drives, so effectively the equivalent of 2 dual 8-inch drives. We've also got a hard drive there. Mapped to drive I, and we've got our disk library and some manuals, the system configuration itself, the CPA, which is effectively the front panel, and then some other bits and pieces, Kremenko Dazzler and a Cyclops video camera. But I'm not going to demonstrate those today because that's just too much. If you want to see more on that, again, best go and have a look at Dave's channel for those. But we'll have a quick look in the disk library. So in here there are various bits and pieces, but what we're going to focus on today other than the operating system, which is currently CPM 22. So you can see that that disk CPM 22B01 is greyed out, indicating that it is actually loaded. And if I hover over the drives over here, you can see, there you go, it's actually loaded into drive A. And currently in drive B we've got VIO, and drive C we've got my Wargames disk, which we'll come on to. Drive D's just got a blank disk in it, and drive I is the hard drive, which is effectively my dumping ground for anything that I need access to on a regular basis. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty easy to add additional disk images. You can effectively just drag them over from your computer. So I'm running this, or I'm accessing this from my Mac at the moment, but doesn't really matter as long as you've got a supported browser, and Chrome seems to work quite nicely, then all should be fine. But just to give you an idea, so on my Mac I've got the Z80 pack from UdoMonk installed, so I can actually run up a simulated or emulated Z80 machine in various flavours, whether as an Altair or just as a regular CPM machine or as an Imsai or whatever. And I've got a number of disk images that I use here. But if I've been working on something and I want to then copy it up to the Imsai 8080 ESP, it's literally as simple as selecting the disk that you want and dragging it and dropping it there. I won't do it now because it's already there, but it's as simple as that, and then it'll appear in the disk library ready for use. So anyway, we'll close this for now, and I'll actually close the browser just to stop it handing control back over to the browser TTY, which does happen occasionally. Okay, but once you close the browser session, you're pretty much good to go. So there you go, we're now looking at a terminal session directly connected via the RS-232, and that'll be the CPM system disk in there at the moment. We can do a survey there, see what's going on. Okay, there we go. Alright, so I'll kind of get to the point. So I've already copied the Wargames software that I've written over onto the hard drive on drive I. And if we get a quick directory, okay, there you go. You can see you've got a whole load of stuff in there, but let's be a bit more specific here. I should do a directory listing for Wargames.wildcard. Okay, there you go. So you can see we've got the Wargames.bas, which is the basic source code. And this was written using Basic 80 on a variety of different machines, but as I mentioned earlier, it was originally written on the Sinclair QL, so this has effectively been, well, I can't say ported, it's been rewritten. And then we've got a backup of an older copy, not to worry about that. But there we got the wargames.rel, which is the compiled version, and then we've got wargames.com, which is the linked version, so that's executable in its own right. So let's give you a little bit of an intro. Now, it has to be said, there's still a lot of work to be done on this. The version that I've got running on the QL platform is more developed, but this is obviously slightly more authentic. So if we run Wargames, that will run the com file. Okay, and I've got a few controls in here because there's a considerable difference in the performance or the speed that the compiled version runs at versus the interpreted version, the basic source code. So that's why I've included this, to put a delay in. Typically around 500 to 1000 should be okay. I'll tell you, we'll split the difference. We'll go in at 750. Okay, and I've included some help screens, or I am including them. I'll put it up for now just because, and then there's an option there to select either Imsai 8080 or Amstrad PCW. Effectively what that's going to do is set up the escape characters for CLS, for clear screen, because they differ from machine to machine and terminal emulation to terminal emulation. So that's all that is. It'll default to Imsai anyway, but we'll select it. Okay, there you go. So if you've seen some of the other videos, you'll be familiar with some of these help screens. Given the memory constraints on the Imsai 8080, the amount of fluff that I can include is somewhat limited. The same way that I'm forced to recycle array variables and things like that, because otherwise you literally run out of memory before you've even finished writing the code. So as time goes on, I'm gradually refining it to optimize the code as best I can. Possibly not helped by the fact that it's written in BASIC, but it would have been a bit of an onerous task to write it in assembler. Okay, so there we go, and we get into what effectively looks like a CP/M machine, but this is obviously just simulated, but it is running on a CP/M machine. So okay, so from there, if I type dir, you can see we've got a few commands that we can use. Okay, we'll start off with modem. Okay, you can see it's going through simulating, loading up the program, and then connecting. In this case, if you're familiar with the film, you'll know that one of the first things he does is connects to the school computer to change his and Jennifer's grades. Okay, all right, and again, if you're familiar with the movie, you'll know what the password is for that. Okay, and then here, where we're looking for the student names, there's only a couple in there, as you'd expect, but it'll do a mid-string search on it, so you can pretty much put in any variant, and as long as you've got the surname in there somewhere, it'll find it. Okay, so there you go. So there's Jennifer's grades, and they should be the same as the ones on the movie. Okay, and we've got an option to edit. Okay, we have to put in the class that we want to change. Okay, and then we're going to be generous, and in line with the movie we'll give her an A. Okay, and we can do the same for David Lightman. Okay, so here's his grades. Okay, again, edit there, the class soon, we're just changing the biology grades in line with the movie itself. Okay, and we're going to give him a grade A. Well, okay, that was a bit generous. But anyway, and then if we go back in again, we can see that the grades will have changed. Okay, and we can just come out of there by typing exit, and that will then disconnect our session. Okay, and the next thing we want to do is run the dialer, and this is where David goes to scan for other systems in Sunnyvale, California. So we're going to click view to see, well, we haven't currently got any. I'm going to expedite this a little bit, but if I say scanned, I can tell it how many I want to scan for. Now, given that the first hit would occur at 1083, we're not going to search for all of them, but I'll show you how it works if I search for 100 numbers. Okay, and then it'll ask me to confirm the prefixes. I've given myself the option to change those if I wish to, although you won't then get any hits because they won't have any numbers stored in the database. But there you go, you can see it scanning through. Now, if we change the delay, then that would have slowed this process down a little bit. Obviously, that's not truly representative as it stands, because in reality, it would be dialing those numbers with a modem, waiting for a response, and then gauging whether it had received a tone back, carrier tone, before indicating whether or not it had got a successful hit. But for the purposes of this exercise, given that my arm's going to ache from holding my phone up for too long, we'll just do it this way. So obviously no hits on that one, but in true Blue Peter style, we've got an option to load previous hits. So there we go. Now in reality, there's only a handful of those numbers that would get hits. At the moment they're A, B and C, which aren't actually correct, but for the purposes of this exercise we'll not worry about that unduly. So if we select option A, which is the first system that he connects to in the movie, you can see there we got Union Marine Bank. Now actually this won't get you very far. You can try and log in using any credentials you want and it won't actually go anywhere, but obviously that could be amended in the source code if required. And then option B, this is where they connect to Pan Am. Okay, and let's just go and create a reservation for ourselves. Okay, so create a new reservation. And where are we going? Well, in line with the movie, we're going to go to Paris. Okay. Alright, so that's giving us a little bit of pre-canned information, and then we're going to select the number of passengers 2. Now this is where it deviates from the movie, because the movie, even though David says to Jennifer, "Oh, are you travelling alone, Miss Mac?" and she says, "No, you're coming with me." If you clock the screen, it doesn't actually give the option to specify the number of passengers, but we are. The other thing it doesn't do, which is mentioned in the movie, the question being asked is, "Oh, are you smoking or non-smoking?" And there's no option for that in the movie. There will be an option for that on this when I get around to including it, but there isn't currently. Okay, so name of first passenger, Mac J, and second passenger, Lightman D. Okay, there's no limit on the number of passengers you can specify, incidentally, except that eventually you will run out of a memory as the array grows. Okay, and that's it. And if we go back in to check our reservation, there you go. Now, when I get time, I'm going to include a basic search facility there, so you can search by surname or booking reference if I can include one. But anyway, it basically works. And as with a lot of old view data type systems, it's just carriage return to go back a menu. There's some other options, but we'll look at those another time maybe. Alright, and then if we go into option C, this will be where they discover the w.o.p.r. So there you go, you can see our logon prompt, and if we type help there, it's going to tell us no help available. Thinking that he's found Protovision, finds help games, there we go. And you can see the delay on the characters, so effectively reading them into to an array and then outputting them one at a time. Okay, and then we'll do list games. There we go. Okay, and we're now at that point. He puts in Joshua as the username and finds his way in with a lot of spurious characters coming up as per the film, although the sequence of the film probably goes on a little longer. Okay, and at that point we can have our rudimentary chat with w.o.p.r or with Joshua. Now this is using mid-string searches, so as long as you hit the keyword somewhere in whatever you type, it'll kind of work. So in this case the keyword is fine, but I could say anything as long as the word fine is in there, it'll work. And again here, as long as the word mistakes is somewhere in the string that you type, it'll work. And here the keyword is nuclear, being that you're asking to play global thermonuclear war, so as long as you've got the word nuclear in there somewhere, it'll work. And when you prefer a good game of chess, and again, keyword being later, as long as you've got later somewhere in there, it will work. And there we go. Now, this aspect of it still needs a lot of development. Once I can free up a little bit more memory. because on the Imsai 8080 that I'm using, or the Imsai 8080 ESP or replica that I'm using, when you look at the survey, we've only actually got about 54k usable, and to compile it I've got to have 40 kilobytes of available memory, so so it makes life a little tricky. I can stretch it out as interpreted, but there you go, that's the constraints that we're working to. So at the moment we've got the option to say target, and then we can give it a location, Las Vegas as in the film. Okay, and I can give it a second location at the same time. Okay, there we go, and I can then currently just launch the missiles, and it rather quickly comes back and says yes, they've been destroyed. That was very efficient. But anyway, as I say, needs a bit of work, but you get the idea, and you've got the maps there as well. Alright, so we can exit from there, and then we've all the same commands are available. So we can list games again if we really want to. And there is a tic-tac-toe, or if you're in the UK, noughts and crosses routine that I've written. But again, need to find somewhere to squeeze a few more lines of code in before I can get that working. So at the moment, that's pretty much the w.o.p.r routine. We can exit from there, and you see goodbye Professor Falcon, connection terminated, and back to the menu again. And then you can go around the loop as many times as you want. And if we were to go back into any of the systems where we've made changes, obviously they're stored in a variables array, so they'll be there yet again. And that, as it stands, is about it. And then once we're done, we can just type bye, and that'll actually take us back to the operating system. So there you go. I'll post another update as it develops, but for now, there's my Wargames simulator running on a replica of an Imsai 8080 with an ESP32. Thanks guys, see ya.